guys, it's Miss Karen, the Young Adult Librarian at the Goshen Public Library, and it's time for another 5 on Friday. And this week I have a special treat for you. This week we're doing 5 books that are written in an epistolary fashion. Now what does epistolary mean? That is a crazy long word, and it doesn't sound very interesting, but I promise it is. So epistolary books are books written in the form of letters or diaries or emails or any kind of that format where you're writing to somebody within the book. So all of our books today are written in the form of either letters or diaries or something like that, and they are all great and a lot of fun to read. So our first book this week is called Tell Me 3 Things, and it's by Julie Buxbaum, and it is kind of a romance. So let's see. Everything about Jessie is wrong. At least that's what it feels like during her first week of junior year at her new ultra-intimidating prep school in Los Angeles. Just when she's thinking about heading back to Chicago, she gets an email from a person calling themselves Somebody Nobody, SN for short, offering to help her navigate the wilds of Wood Valley High School. Is it an elaborate hoax, or can she rely on SN for some much-needed help? It's been barely 2 years since her mother's death, and because her father eloped with a woman he met online, Jessie has been forced to move across the country to live with her stepmonster and her pretentious teenage son. In a leap of faith, or an act of complete desperation, Jessie begins to rely on SN, and SN quickly becomes her lifeline and closest ally. Jessie can't help wanting to meet SN in person, but are some mysteries that are left unsolved? Julie Buxbaum mixes comedy and tragedy, love and loss, pain and elation in her debut YA novel filled with characters who will come to feel like friends. So this book is a little bit older. It's 2016, but it is really good, and I think you'll enjoy it. And it definitely has that letter element, although they are texts and emails for the most part within the book. So, for instance, this is one of the chapters and what it looks like. Right, so that's Tell Me 3 Things. Right, next on my list is a really interesting book, and it's got lots and lots of different methods of communication. It's called Illuminae, and it is by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. Now this book, before I even tell you what it's about, I'm going to just show you the format. It is full of different kinds of messages and texts and different ways of communicating. So even though it's really, really big and it might look intimidating, it is actually a pretty quick read. So let me tell you about it. It's science fiction, by the way. This morning, Katie thought breaking up with Ezra was the hardest thing she'd have to do today. This afternoon, her planet was invaded. The year is 2575, and 2 rival mega corporations, which are the names of which are blacked out, are at war over a planet that's little more than an ice-covered speck at the edge of the universe. Too bad nobody thought to warn the people living on it. With enemy fire raining down on them, their exes, Katie and Ezra, who are barely even talking to each other, are forced to fight their way onto the evacuating fleet with an enemy warship in hot pursuit. But the warship is the least of their problems. A deadly something has broken out and is mutating with terrifying results. The fleet's AI, which should be protecting them, may actually be their enemy, and nobody in charge will say what the heck is going on. As Katie hacks into a tangled web of data to find the truth, it's clear only one person can help her bring it all to light. The ex-boyfriend she swore she'd never speak to again. Briefing note. Told through a fascinating dossier of hacked documents, including emails, schematics, military files, IMs, medical reports, interviews, and more, Illuminae is the first book in a heart-stopping, high-octane trilogy about lives interrupted, the price of the truth, and the courage of everyday heroes. So, like I just read, Illuminae is the first book in a trilogy. I believe all 3 books are currently available, so if you like Illuminae, you can get the other 2 to finish out the series. It is really, really a unique read. There is so much interesting formatting and writing in it. You'll definitely not be bored. And there's a pretty solid romance in it too. So if you like sci-fi romance, this one's for you. Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. Okay, now we are going to do a strictly romance, which is called Alex Approximately, and it is by Jen Bennett, and this is definitely a romance. The one guy Bailey Rydell can't stand is actually the boy of her dreams. She just doesn't know it yet. Classic movie fan Bailey, Mink Rydell, has spent months crushing on a witty film geek she only knows online as Alex. Two coasts separate the teens until Bailey moves in with her dad, who lives in the same California surfing town as her online crush. Faced with doubts, what if he's a creep in real life, or worse? Bailey doesn't tell Alex she's moved to his hometown, or that she's landed a job at the local tourist trap museum, or that she's being heckled daily by the irritatingly hot museum security guard, Porter Roth, aka her new arch nemesis. But life is a whole lot messier than in the movies, especially when Bailey discovers those tricky fine lines dividing hate, love, and whatever it is she's starting to feel for Porter. And as the summer months go by, Bailey must choose whether to cling to a dreamy online fantasy in Alex or take a risk on an imperfect reality with Porter. The choice is both simpler and more complicated than she realizes, because Porter Roth is hiding a secret of his own. Porter is Alex, approximately. So this is definitely a great romance, very fun to read, and it is, again, written in the style of an epistolary novel with letters and emails and texts and message board messages and everything else. So check out Alex Approximately by Jen Bennett. Right, and the next book on my stack is a thriller, and it is called All of This Is True by Lygia de Peñaflor. And if you notice, true is crossed out, so maybe it's not so true. And this is realistic fiction, definitely a thriller. Miri Tan loved Undertow like it was more than a book, like it was a living being. So when she and her friends went to a book signing to meet the author, Fatima Rowe, they had a plan for how to get close to her, even if Miri's friends won't admit it now, after everything that's happened. As for Jonah, well, Miri knows none of it was Fatima's fault. Soliel Johnston wanted to be a writer herself one day. When she and her friends started hanging out with her favorite author, Fatima Rowe, she couldn't believe their luck, especially when Jonah Nichols started coming along with them. Now, looking back, Soliel can't believe she let Fatima manipulate her and Jonah like that. She can't believe she got used for a book. Penny Panzarella was more than a materialistic party girl everyone at the Graham School thought she was, and she was willing to share all of her secrets with Fatima Rowe to prove it. If only she'd known what would happen when Fatima found out about Jonah. If only she'd known that the line between fiction and truth was more complicated than any of them imagined. In Lydia de Peñaflor's page-turning novel, interviews, journal entries, and even a book within a book all come together to tell the story of three girls who are shocked to find themselves cast in their favorite YA novelist's new book with devastating consequences. So this is a thriller. Again, it has the interesting format. Let me see if I can find letters, texts, messages, newspaper articles. So it's not just a straight up read like you're used to reading. It's got a mixture of formatting, which always makes it more interesting. Yeah. Right, so that is All of This Is True by Lygia de Peñaflor. All right, and our last book is back to romance, and it's one of my favorites, P.S. I Like You by Casey West. This is a little bit older, again from 2016. Signed, sealed, delivered. While spacing out in chemistry class, Lily scribbles some of her favorite song lyrics onto her desk. The next day, she finds that someone has continued the lyrics on the desk and added a message to hers. Intrigue. Soon, Lily and her anonymous pen pal are exchanging full-on letters, sharing secrets, recommending bands, and opening up to each other. Lily realizes she's kind of falling for this letter writer. Only who is he? As Lily attempts to unravel the mystery and juggle school friends, crushes, and her crazy family, she discovers that matters of the heart can't always be spelled out. Casey West brings irresistible wit, warmth, and sparkle to this swoon-worthy story of love showing up when and where you least expect it. So this one is more the traditional epistolary novel in that it is full of letters that the characters are writing to each other within the story. So, and it really is a quick read and a lot of fun. So that is P.S. I Like You by Casey West. So those are my 5 picks for epistolary novels. If you have a favorite, let me know. Or if you want more recommendations, we do have some more epistolary books in the collection. These are just my personal favorites. So I hope you check them out, and I hope you tune in next week for a brand new 5 on Friday. Have a great weekend, and I will see you soon.